What's up, my know-it-alls? Well, I'll tell you what, the internet has been rife with some questions recently. Very specifically, I've been seeing an awful lot of chat and discussion about was Star Trek Discovery, or is rather Star Trek Discovery, successful? So we're going to talk about that today. Don't go anywhere. So I think it's important to really get into and dive into, especially when it comes to this topic of was or is Star Trek Discovery successful? There are many people who have a lot of different opinions. I'm going to be very upfront so that you guys understand where I'm coming from. I've enjoyed later seasons. I did not like I would say the first two seasons for me were really rough. Once I got over some of the storytelling aspects, I eventually got into it, and I liked 3, 4, and I'm assuming 5 is going to be amazing as well, because 4 I really did like. So I liked how it got back to a lot of its roots and became very Star Trek in that we were dealing with aliens and people had to think through things, and I liked seeing those elements. And so overall, is it my favorite show? Absolutely not. Is it the one I don't like the most? No way. That honor and distinction is held by Star Trek Enterprise, which I am not a fan of. But at the same time, I see the value in it. I love seeing Easter eggs where we have Admiral Archer referred to, or the USS Archer, because it's talking about Captain Archer, who was the captain of the NX-01. So again, so now we're getting into Star Trek Discovery. So I believe there is an answer. Objectively, is Star Trek Discovery a good show, and was it successful? So I think good is a matter of opinion, and therefore I'm going to take that out of it. But I do believe that you can objectively say it was a successful show. Here we go. Viewership. Discovery was the most watched series on Paramount Plus in its inaugural year of 2021. Analytics company Perot Analytics listed it as the 15th most in-demand streaming series of 2021, and it was also frequently ranked in the top 10 original streaming series for U.S. viewership during its season run. Okay, so first off, who cares why? Now, everybody was going to sit here and jump in the comment section and be like, oh, what's because of this and that and pandemic and whatever else. Who cares? Bottom line is, this is an objective, not an opinion. So we're going by just what the facts state. When you get into this, I think that absolutely you cannot doubt that the fact that viewership was definitely there. So when it comes to viewership, absolutely, the series was a success. Critical reception. The 4th season of the show received an 88% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes with an average rating of 7.70 out of 10 based on 17 reviews. That, I think, is overstating or understating the number. I think they've got tons more reviews since then and whatnot. But at the same time, when it opened up and how it was, critical review and reception was definitely, I think, factually, it was successful. If you look at it, something as rotten or not, now you can argue Rotten Tomatoes is not a good meter, or I know Matt Pat just put out a video talking about how it's a broken system, but I don't necessarily know that that's 100% the truth. I do feel like as a metric, it's one we have at the moment, and it's one that's worth using. I would definitely say that as a metric, critically speaking, the show is a success. Again, we're looking for objective reasons, not personal. None of this has to do with my opinion or your opinion, because your mileage obviously may vary. But I think overall, it's important to say that objectively speaking, yeah, I think that critical reception was good. Awards. So Star Trek Discovery has been nominated for various awards, including the Critics' Choice Super Awards and the GLAAD Media Awards, and has won the Best Special Makeup Effects Award at the Makeup Artists and Hairstylists Guild Awards. Okay, some might argue those are not necessarily as prestigious as some other ones, but I would argue back that awards are awards are awards. The show is and has been an award-winning show. Now, there are people who want to make the joke. I'll use a parallel example that, the Suicide Squad is the Oscar award-winning Suicide Squad because it won for Best Song or something along those lines. And at the end of the day, it's still objectively, factually, it won. So the show has won awards, a lot of awards. Could you argue other series from Star Trek have won more or different or whatever? Sure you could, but at the end of the day, we're talking about Star Trek Discovery. So Star Trek Discovery definitely comes along with a very good stable of well-respected awards. Financial success. Star Trek Discovery was financially successful for CBS, now Paramount Plus, as Netflix reportedly paid more than 100% of the cost of the show to obtain international distribution rights. This means the show had made a profit before it even aired on CBS All Access in the United States. Okay, I intend to post links to all of I'm citing certain things, and I want to make sure those things are there, so they're going to be in the description below, so that you have a better idea of just what all of those could potentially, these numbers and facts could mean and where they come from. One thing I hate is when people try to sit here and say, oh, it was terrible, and then they only cite their own articles, and I'm like, self-referential citations aren't conducive to an objective opinion. So since to an objective thing you're going to say something is. So for instance, I am objectively saying Discovery so thus far is meeting out to be a successful series based on certain criteria overall. The other thing to talk about is, yes, there was drama surrounding Netflix and what it ultimately, there was some complaints. Bottom line is this, we know Star Trek Discovery and Star Trek in general had a rocky start. I would argue that people want to sit here and say, oh, well, the first season of this and that, or how come it didn't have this? The first season of TOS was not a huge success. In fact, it was canceled after 3 seasons. That's huge. Other series have been allowed to end or finish their run. Star Trek Next Generation and a lot of others were able to come to a satisfying conclusion, whereas the original series was canceled prematurely or early because it was not as quote-unquote successful. So again, moving through this objective discussion, objectively speaking, yes, the show could have been said to have had signed a profit immediately. Are we getting into any of the things like potential lawsuits that happened due to releases and who would have which regions and whatnot? No, that isn't germane to this discussion. At the end of the day, on paper, again, the series was successful. Equity representation. The series has been recognized for its commitment to gender equality, gender equity rather, receiving the Reframe stamp for having gender-balanced hiring. Dude, absolutely. Hands down. I think nobody's going to argue that the series is pioneering LGBTQ's equality, as well as a lot of others. I think some of the other shows have done... Star Trek has always been a bastion of equality. Truthfully speaking, we've had diverse lists of characters throughout time immemorial when it comes to Star Trek. Everything from how much Gene Roddenberry fought very hard to have women represented and minorities represented, minorities of the time, as well as different ethnicities. And during the Cold War, the beginning of the Cold War, you had a Russian on the bridge. I mean, all these things added to the diversity and inclusivity of the series. And I think nobody can really argue that. Anybody who tries to hasn't really watched Star Trek. Like, do you even Star Trek, bro? Now, I feel like some people will be like, oh, well, the toys haven't been successful and this and that and the other. No, but the show, that's mainly because I think, frankly, they did a poor job. I don't know that any of the toys have ever looked as good as some of the original ones that you got. I know that my original Next Generation figures were amazing, and I loved everything about them. And I don't know that any of the Discovery material has ever been as good. I also know there was some licensing issues back in the day with Les Moonves and some other contract type stuff. You know, it's one of those definitely if you know type situations. But overall, I think, without a doubt, I may not like the series as much as other people. And I definitely didn't like the beginning of it. I thought seasons 1 and 2 were a mess. Myself. Your mileage may vary. The show got much better as it went forward. 3 and 4 were powerful seasons that I absolutely enjoyed. And it's kind of really comes down to once they finally broke free and got out of the original mold, and the minute they got out of, hey, this is what the expectations are and whatnot, I feel like you got a better series. I'm okay with filling in the blanks. I think that's a good way to go. I'm excited for what they're doing in Strange New Worlds, and all of that the groundwork was laid for that in Star Trek Discovery. Anyone who says otherwise, again, I don't know what you're watching. So, yeah. All right, guys, well, let me know in the comment section what you guys think. I would love to hear your opinions on whether or not you thought the show was good, you thought it was not even good. You tell me what is your metric for success. And again, let's keep it polite. I want everybody to be respectful in the comment section. Everyone's entitled to their opinions, because ultimately, remember, all art is subjective. Let's keep all of this happy, because remember, we're all fans of the same thing, Star Trek. So if all of that kept in mind, I look forward to talking to you guys very soon again. All right, guys, never forget, everyone loves a know-it-all.